What could Germany have become if it hadn't been involved in the two world wars and its fatal participation in both? Without the madman Hitler and his Nazi horde with their utopian and executioner ideas? Let's try to imagine. To today's territory, we need to add Eastern Pomerania, Silesia, East and West Prussia, Schleswig, Alsace and Lorraine. Let's not forget the Malmedy area. We can safely add Austria and probably Bohemia, known as the Czech Republic. Centrifugal forces and political processes would have, one way or another, dissolved Austria-Hungary into national states. The aging Habsburgs would not have been able to prevent this. Due to the general trend toward democratization, most likely, the Czech Republic and territories with a Polish population would have had broad autonomy, occasionally attempting, through referendums, to leave Germany, similar to Spain's Catalonia or Britain's Scotland, but without much success. However, even such a Germany would hardly have preserved the monarchy. Leftist radicals would likely have turned it into a republic by the 1950s. So, the territory of such a Germany would have been 730,000 square kilometers, comparable to Turkey. A journey from Strasbourg to Königsberg would have been almost 1,000 kilometers long. The population could have been around 150 million people, not only because of the larger area but also because Germany would have happily avoided the huge population losses in the world wars. There would have been fewer migrants flooding Germany today. Although even such a Germany would not have avoided the pan-European trend of an aging population, the population density would have been almost like today's Japan. The largest cities with populations of 1 million or more would have been Berlin, Hamburg, Munich, Vienna, Breslau, Königsberg, Prague, Cologne. In terms of industrial production, such a Germany would confidently compete with today's USA, accounting for up to 10% of the world's output. The GDP volume would have been noticeably larger, $8.5 trillion, surpassed only by China and the USA. The army would have been at least 800,000 people, roughly like Turkey's, making it the second most powerful NATO country after the USA. The Navy would have been much more impressive, possibly equaling the combined fleets of France and Spain in the number of ships. The fleet would have included aircraft carriers and nuclear submarines. Also, it would likely have had a small number of nuclear warheads, similar to the French. This would have been a significant deterrent argument against, for example, the expansion of today's Russia under Putin. The absence of guilt over Nazi crimes and numerous post-war restrictions would have made Germany's foreign policy more independent and decisive. For instance, faced with a problem like the fanatic Houthis, such a Germany might have resolved it radically, simply turning their military facilities into heaps of ruins without any hesitation. Actions similar to today's half measures by many spineless Western politicians would not have occurred. Germany's colonial possessions would have been inevitably lost, as with other countries that owned them at the beginning of the 20th century. Germany might have had to go through bloody colonial wars, similar to France and Portugal. If such a Germany existed, then perhaps the influence of the USA in Europe would have been much less and more limited. Together with France and Britain and its nuclear umbrella, Germany would have been the main guarantor of Europe's security. Most likely, today's society and politicians of such a country would be less tolerant, for example, toward Muslim radicals who have flooded the country. The situation where police harshly disperse a German rally against Islamists supporting Hezbollah's actions, earning populist political dividends, would have been impossible.